Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving deep into something that's, well, really the engine of everyday English conversation. Phrasal verbs. We were talking about those combinations. A verb plus a little word, a particle, like a preposition or an adverb, that often feel less like just grammar and more like a key to sounding, well, natural.
Oh, absolutely. They really are. If you've ever felt, that your English is technically spot on, but maybe sounds a little stiff,
Yeah.
a bit too formal,
Yeah.
the missing piece is almost certainly confidence with phrasal verbs. They're sort of the heartbeat, the rhythm of how fluent speakers actually talk
Yeah.
every single day, whether it's just a quick text or, a formal business presentation.
Right. So our mission today in this deep dive isn't just to define them. We want to really pull back the curtain on why English uses them so much. We want to show you where they pop up, which, let's be honest, is pretty much everywhere, and crucially give you some practical strategies, real methods to actually get a handle on them.
Yeah, the goal is that by the time we're done here, you, the listener, should feel, well, genuinely empowered to start using these yourself, weaving them into your own conversations.
Exactly.
Empowered.
And that feeling, that empowerment, it really comes from understanding the why. Phrasal verbs, fundamentally, they're like the secret sauce of English fluency.
I like that secret sauce.
Yeah. They're what makes the difference between someone who speaks correctly, technically, and someone who sounds genuinely, effortlessly natural. They add nuance. They make things concise. They give you that cadence.
That secret sauce analogy is perfect, actually, because it really gets at the idea of, texture and flavor in language. English without phrasal verbs.
Oh, yes.
It's like trying to eat a really good sandwich, but forgetting the dressing or the mayo.
Right, exactly.
It's edible, sure, you can understand it, but it's just stiff. It feels dry. It lacks that essential tie. It just comes across as overly formal, maybe a bit stilted, because it misses that organic flow that's just a normal and native conversation. And that formality, it can be a real barrier sometimes. Ignoring phrasal verbs is just, it's not really an option if you want genuine fluency. Because they're everywhere.
Yeah.
They act like these little linguistic accelerators. They get you from a potentially complex idea to a simple, direct way of saying it much, much faster. So once you start mastering them, you're not just learning vocabulary anymore. You're actually changing how you express yourself, fundamentally.
It's less about just memorizing lists of verbs and more about tapping into that sort of intrinsic rhythm of the language. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's unpack the structure first, because I think that's where a lot of the confusion starts. What exactly are we talking about here?
Okay, so at their core, right, a phrasal verb is just that combo. A main verb plus a particle. And that particle is usually a small word acting like a preposition or an adverb, sometimes maybe even both.
Right.
But the key thing, the really crucial part that makes them tricky and also kind of fascinating is the semantic shift, the meaning change.
Ah, yes. The combination often creates a meaning that's just completely different from the original verb on its own. It's not just adding the parts together. It's like creating a whole new word.
Precisely. Take a really common verb like look, simple enough. On its own, it's pretty transparent, means you direct your eyes, you glance at something. But the second you add the particle after, you get look after.
And boom, the meaning totally flips.
Yeah.
Look after means to take care of, right? To be responsible for something or someone. Like, did you look after my bag for a second?
Exactly.
There's absolutely zero connection left to the physical act of glancing. It's an immediate, total change in meaning, a semantic transformation.
And this flexibility, this ability to create new meanings, it's actually deeply rooted in the history of English. When we look at phrasal verbs, we're seeing the sort of the Germanic core of the language flexing its muscles.
Interesting. So not the Latin or French influence.
Well, many of the more formal single-word alternatives, like, say, investigate or postpone or reconcile, those often come from Latin or French roots. Phrasal verbs, though, they often tap into older, simpler Germanic roots. And that's probably why they feel more direct, maybe more visceral, definitely more conversational to native speakers.
That context is really helpful. It explains why someone might instinctively reach for the simpler, shorter, Germanic-rooted put off instead of the Latinate postpone, even if they mean basically the same thing. It's about linguistic preference, maybe even feel.
Exactly. It's about that choice and rhythm. Now, this transformation, this meaning shift, means phrasal verbs exist on this broad spectrum.
Right. So at one end, you've got the easy ones, the transparent or literal ones. These are pretty straightforward, often physical actions like sit down or stand up. You can usually figure those out. They're a good way in.
Definitely. But the real challenge, and where true mastery lies, is grappling with the other end of the spectrum, the figurative or idiomatic phrasal verbs.
Ah, yes. The tricky ones.
Yeah. Take give in. We know give usually means physically handing something over.
Right.
But give in, it means to agree reluctantly or to yield to pressure. He finally gave in and agreed to the plan. The individual words give and in give you absolutely no clue about that real meaning.
And that unpredictability, that's the hurdle for learners, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if we focus on that efficiency you mentioned earlier, that conciseness, maybe it makes the effort seem more worthwhile.
It really does. They offer incredible efficiency, getting your point across quickly, which is so important for achieving that native-like rhythm in conversation. I mean, why say a long phrase like, I need to find a solution to this complex problem, when you can capture the exact same idea, the same nuance, with the much simpler, punchier, I need to work out this problem. It's verbal economy.
That shift, going from, 7 words down to 3, that fundamentally changes the pace of how you speak, how the conversation flows.
Totally.
So getting good at phrasal verbs isn't just about learning more words. It's about optimizing your speed, getting that natural flow that native speakers just do instinctively.
And because they are just everywhere, omnipresent, trying to avoid them is simply unrealistic if you want to sound fluent. They're used constantly across pretty much every situation. So mastering them is essential for sounding natural, for engaging easily.
Right.
Without them, your English might sound, intelligent perhaps, but maybe a bit rigid, a little
Yeah, robotic even.
Yeah, maybe. But with them, your English becomes dynamic, fluid, much more relatable.
Okay, that sets the stage perfectly. So now we need to see these linguistic accelerators in action. Let's move from the theory to the practical side. How do they actually shape the tone in different situations? Starting with the most common one, just everyday casual chat.
Right. In casual settings, phrasal verbs are just fundamental. They're essential for creating that warm, natural flow. They add ease, familiarity. They're really the bedrock of social interaction.
Okay, let's maybe look at a few really common ones that show that conversational rhythm. First up, catch up. You hear this all the time when people reconnect.
Oh, catch-up is almost mandatory, isn't it? It means reconnecting, sharing updates, basically making up for the time you've been apart. When you say, let's catch up next week, it almost has this little metaphor built in, like you're closing a distance and shared experience.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, you could say, let's synchronize our personal narratives, but...
Yeah, nobody says that. It sounds completely lifeless.
Exactly. And technically, catch-up is usually inseparable here. You just say, I want to catch up with Sarah. The with Sarah part comes after the whole phrasal verb.
Okay, good distinction. So inseparable. Got it. What about hang out? Another super common one.
Hang out.
We're just going to hang out this weekend. That immediately tells me it's casual, it's relaxed, probably no specific plan.
Right. It suggests just spending time together informally, easygoing, very different from saying we shall schedule a formal visit. And interestingly, unlike catch-up, hang out can often just stand alone without an object. Like, what are you doing tonight? Oh, just hanging out. That flexibility helps it flow really easily in speech.
Okay. And maybe one more for casual chat. Bring up. This one's interesting because it often implies introducing a topic, maybe one that's a bit sensitive or hasn't been mentioned yet.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I didn't really want to bring up the budget issue, but we really need to talk about it.
Right.
And this one, bring up, is separable. This is important. You can say, don't bring up that topic, or you can say, don't bring that topic up.
So the object, that topic, can go in the middle.
Yes. And in fact, if you use a pronoun like it, you must put it in the middle. Don't bring it up. You can't say, don't bring up it.
Okay, that's a perfect example of how a little technical rule really changes how you say something. If you, the listener, can just internalize that difference, like catch up stays together, bring up can split, that's a huge step.
Definitely. And a quick tip here, just to get the feel for it, try consciously picking 2 or 3 really common ones like catch up, hang out, maybe bring up, and just deliberately try to use them in your next text message or a casual chat. Focus on the feeling of using them naturally, not just remembering the definition.
Good advice. Okay, so we've seen how they add warmth and flow in social situations, but what about the maybe colder, more structured world of work? Does that conversational ease actually translate well there?
It absolutely does, but maybe with a slightly different flavor, a different tone. In professional settings, meetings, emails, even reports, phrasal verbs can help you sound confident, yes, but also collaborative and approachable.
Right.
They give you these dynamic, maybe less stuffy alternatives to some of those very formal, often Latin-based verbs we mentioned earlier.
Okay, let's focus on a few key professional ones then.
Right.
You mentioned look into earlier, suggesting it shows proactivity.
Yes, exactly. Instead of saying something quite formal like, I shall investigate this matter, you can just say, okay, I'll look into that issue.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds much more proactive. It conveys commitment. It signals you're taking ownership. And technically, look into is generally inseparable. You look into the issue. You'd never say, I'll look the issue into. That sounds very wrong.
Got it. Inseparable. And what about its cousin, follow up? That's another one you hear constantly in emails. Used to keep things moving, right?
Right. Follow-up means checking back or taking the next step, taking further action. Okay, I'll follow up on those sales figures tomorrow. It sounds very collaborative, very forward-looking, keeps the momentum going.
And is that separable or inseparable?
Like look into, it's generally treated as inseparable in its most common meaning. You follow up on something or follow up with someone.
Okay. Now, one that might signal a bit of trouble, maybe, put off. You said this one can carry a nuance of urgency that the single word version sometimes lacks.
Yeah, that's a good point. When you postpone a meeting, it sounds quite neutral, quite factual. But if you say, look, we really can't put off this decision any longer, there's often a sense of, well, internal pressure or urgency. It suggests something is looming, maybe dangerously close.
I see. And separability for put off.
Put off is separable. You can put off the meeting or you can put the meeting off. Both were perfectly fine. Again, with a pronoun. Let's put it off until next week.
That difference in tone, neutral postpone versus potentially urgent put off, that's exactly the kind of subtle insight that phrasal verbs give you. They let you color the conversation.
They really do. Let's just use one more common professional one. Workout. Super important for problem solving. Okay, let's all work out a solution together.
Yeah, that sounds inherently collaborative, doesn't it? Like an active, shared effort to figure something out, to resolve it.
Definitely. And work out, when it means solve or resolve, is generally separable. We need to work this problem out, or we need to work out this problem.
Okay, so a really practical tip for the workplace. Try weaving these into your professional emails. Maybe next time write something like, thanks for flagging that. I'll look into the client feedback right away and follow up with you by key OB.
Yeah.
It just makes your communication sound crisper, more efficient, more natural.
Absolutely. But, and this is the crucial caveat we have to keep mentioning, always, always be mindful of formality.
Right.
Look into is generally fine. Follow up is fine. But you really want to avoid overly casual phrasal verbs like, say, mess up when you're talking to a senior manager or an important client. That formality spectrum is vital.
Yeah, you don't want to mess up by using mess up in the wrong context.
Exactly. So when in doubt, especially in a high-stakes situation, it's always safer to default to the more formal single-word verb like investigate instead of look into until you get a better feel for the specific workplace culture.
Sound advice. Okay, moving from the office to the screen, let's talk pop culture. Music, movies, TV shows. Phrasal verbs are absolutely everywhere there, aren't they?
Yeah.
They capture complex feelings, complex actions, really concisely. They're like linguistic shortcuts to making things relatable.
Oh, totally. They condense huge emotional arcs into tiny phrases. I mean, just think about every heartbreak song ever written.
Oh, yeah.
The core story is almost always captured by two phrasal verbs, break up and move on.
Right. Break up, the relationship ends, move on, you recover, you put it behind you. Using just those two little phrases captures that universal human experience way better than saying something clunky like, I am currently attempting to achieve emotional recovery following the formal termination of our romantic affiliation.
Precisely. And that universality, that shared understanding, is why they're such staples in lyrics and scripts. In films, too, especially, say, action movies or heist thrillers, the tension is often ramped up using phrasal verbs like get away. Like they have to get away before the cops show up. It instantly conveys that urgency, maybe a bit of stealth. Yeah. Or think about when someone's trying to encourage a friend who's having a tough time. What do they say? Just hang in there.
Right. Hang in there, stay strong, persevere. It packs resilience and warmth and urgency into just 3 short words. Very punchy.
And for you learners out there, pop culture is actually a fantastic organic environment for absorbing how these are used naturally. A great practical tip. Try creating a phrasal verb playlist.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. Actively listen to songs you like, spot the phrasal verbs, break up, move on, hang on, turn up, and then challenge yourself. Try writing completely new sentences using those same phrasal verbs, but in totally different situations. Not romantic ones, maybe work ones, or travel ones.
That's clever. It turns passive listening, just enjoying the music, into active learning. Okay, let's pivot again. What about the academic world? School, university, education in general. That's another place full of its own phrasal verb conventions, right? Defining how students and teachers talk about learning.
Oh, definitely. Academic interactions rely heavily on them for clarity and, well, just sounding normal. What's the standard term for submitting your work? It's always a phrasal verb, hand in.
Right. Please hand in your essays by Friday.
Exactly. It's interesting, isn't it, that hand in is so much more common in everyday academic speech than the more formal submit.
Yeah, submit almost sounds like you're clicking a button online, doesn't it? Whereas hand in feels more like an active, maybe even physical exchange between the student and the teacher.
I think that's exactly right. It feels more human, more active. And technically, hand in is a separable phrasal verb. That's important. You can hand in your paper or you can hand your paper in. Both work.
Okay, separable. Good to know. And before a big test, what does the teacher always do? They go over the material.
Right, class, let's go over the key themes one last time. So go over means to review, to discuss something in detail, usually for clarification or exam prep.
And if you see a student who learns really fast, you might say,
wow, she really picked up Spanish quickly. Pick up here means to learn or acquire a skill or knowledge, often quite informally or rapidly, just through exposure.
It suggests a kind of effortless learning. Maybe more than just the word learn does.
Yeah, I think so. And pick up, when it's about learning a skill or language like that, is generally separable. You can pick Spanish up or pick up Spanish.
Okay. And the flip side of academic commitment, dropout.
Right. Unfortunately, he dropped out of college after the first year. Dropout means to quit or leave an institution, like a school or university, without finishing the course. And this one is generally inseparable from the institution itself. You drop out of college.
Okay. So to help lock in these academic ones, what's a good strategy?
Peer interaction is great here. Maybe quiz a classmate, use an academic phrasal verb like go over or hand in a sentence, and have your partner guess the meaning, or maybe use it themselves in a different sentence. That active recall really helps solidify it.
Makes sense. Okay, let's quickly touch on two other really practical areas, travel and technology. Both are just, as you said, phrasal verb paradises. They're essential for getting things done. When you travel, phrasal verbs just streamline all the logistics talk.
Absolutely. Think about the very first thing you do when you arrive somewhere. You check in to your hotel or at the airport counter. You don't usually say you register formally.
No, never. And when you start your trip, you don't just begin the journey.
You set off. We set off for the coast really early this morning. It sounds much more active, maybe more enthusiastic than just began.
Yeah, it does. And when you're exploring a new city and someone recommends a place, you don't just visit it, you
check it out. You have to check out that little cafe we found. Or did you check out the art museum? It implies visiting or trying something interesting, often based on a recommendation. It's a very active, engaged kind of verb.
Okay. And then switching gears to tech. The digital world has its own shorthand, and it's almost entirely built on phrasal verbs. You just can't talk about tech without them.
Nope. It's the standard language. Log in, log out, set up new software, sign up for a service. These are never really replaced by single, more formal words in everyday tech talk.
Nobody ever says, I must now gain access to my online account.
No, you log in, or maybe sign in. And crucially, for data safety, you should always back up your important files. Backup is just the universal phrase for making safety copies of your data.
Essential. And is backup separable?
Yes, this is a great place to highlight separability again. Backup is definitely separable. You back up your data or you back your data up. But remember the pronoun rule. If your data is it, you absolutely must say you need to back it up. You just can't discuss technology fluently without mastering these core terms.
Okay, so maybe a combined tip here for both travel and tech. Before your next holiday, or maybe before you install that next app, try learning maybe 5 specific phrasal verbs relevant to that context.
Good idea.
And then commit to using them. If you're traveling, actively using. Check in, set off, get around, check out when you're talking about your plans or experiences. If you're asking for tech help online, use login, set up, backup, pop up accurately.
That intentional, focused application is what turns passive knowledge, just recognizing the words, into active, usable fluency. Right now, let's just touch briefly on the emotional side of things, relationships. Phrasal verbs here carry enormous emotional weight and nuance.
Yeah, they really capture those subtle dynamics in relationships perfectly. Take get along. I'm lucky I really get along well with my in-laws. It means more than just we coexist. It implies harmony, compatibility, a lack of friction. It's warmer.
Definitely warmer. And think about capturing that moment of vulnerability. Open up. It took him a long time to open up about his feelings. Open up strongly implies trust, letting your guard down, sharing personal stuff. And generally, when it's about feelings or personal information, it's treated as inseparable. You open up about something.
Okay. Or on the more painful side, let down. I felt really bad for letting her down when I missed her party. Let down means to disappoint someone, to fail their expectations.
Yeah.
But it often carries a heavier weight than just disappoint, maybe implying a breach of trust or reliance.
It can, yeah. And let down is separable. You can let someone down. Don't let me down.
Right. They offer this kind of emotional shorthand, don't they?
They really do. And a way to practice this, maybe a bit more personally, is to try writing a short, genuine note or text to someone you care about. Consciously try to use 3 to 5 of these relationship phrasal verbs, maybe get along, open up, stand by, make up after an argument. Integrating them into how you express real feelings makes them stick and sound authentic.
Good idea. Okay, wow. We have covered a huge amount of ground here, context-wise. Social, professional, pop culture, travel, tech, relationships. So maybe let's hit that quick-fire round you mentioned, just running through some really versatile phrasal verbs, maybe highlighting any ambiguity. Turn down seems like a perfect candidate for ambiguity.
Oh, it's a classic example. Hugely ambiguous without context. Turn down can mean reduce the volume or intensity. Could you turn down the TV?
Right.
Or it can mean to reject an offer or invitation. She turned down the promotion. Completely different meanings.
And the only way to know which is purely from the context, right? The object usually tells you. If you say, I turned down the radio, you know it's volume. If you say, I turned down the job offer, you know it's rejection.
Exactly. And by the way, both of those common uses of turn down are separable. You can turn the TV down or turn the offer down.
Okay. Another ambiguous one. Take off.
Take off. Can mean depart, usually talking about an airplane. Our flight took off on time. Or it can mean to become successful very quickly, often used for products or businesses. Their new app really took off last month. Again, totally different. Context is everything.
Okay, how about put up with? That sounds like it has a strong feeling attached.
It does. Put up with means to tolerate or endure something unpleasant or annoying, often implying you don't like it, but you're managing. I don't know how you put up with all that noise. It carries that sense of long-suffering patience. And this one is inseparable. You put up with something.
Inseparable, got it. And come across.
Come across usually means to find something or meet someone purely by chance, unexpectedly. I came across this great little bookshop yesterday.
And pass out. Not handing out leaflets, right?
No, definitely not in its most common conversational use. Pass out means to faint, to lose consciousness. It was so hot in the room, he nearly passed out. And honestly, you hear pass out far more often in everyday speech than the more formal verb faint.
Right. The sheer range of situations these versatile ones cover makes them so incredibly useful. Okay, so to wrap up all these examples in context, that journal idea sounds really solid.
Yeah, the consolidation tip. Maybe try choosing just one new phrasal verb each day. Write your own original sentence using it in your journal. Maybe even add a little note. Separable or inseparable, that active creative application is what really cements it for the long term.
Okay. That pretty much covers the what and the where, which brings us to maybe the most crucial part for listeners, the how. The strategies for actually mastering these things without feeling totally overwhelmed.
Exactly. The challenge is real. We're not denying that. But the good news is it is absolutely manageable. You just need a strategic approach.
Right. Let's dive into maybe 5 key strategies that can help listeners move from feeling overwhelmed to feeling in control. Strategy number 1, and you've hinted at this a lot, learn them in context. Context is king.
Absolutely. Please do not just try to memorize alphabetical lists of phrasal verbs and their definitions. It's incredibly inefficient and honestly pretty boring.
Yeah.
You have to immerse yourself in authentic English. Listen to native podcasts like this one, watch TV shows, read articles, notice them on social media, listen in real conversations. That's how you absorb the nuance, the subtle shades of meaning, when it's appropriate to use them, the emotional tone they carry.
You need to get the feel for them, right? Not just the dictionary definition. Doing it this way allows you to grasp them more intuitively, which means when you use them, they'll sound natural, unforced. Not like you're mentally searching a list and translating.
Exactly. Okay, strategy 2. Group them by particle. We saw earlier that the particles themselves, words like up, out, in, off, aren't just random. They often carry a core concept or a general theme. Recognizing that provides a massive mental shortcut.
Okay, let's take 2 key examples. The particle UP. What kind of theme does that often carry?
UP very often implies things like completion, or an increase, or something coming into existence or view. Think about cleanup, completion, speed up, increase, show up, or turn up, emergence, arrival.
Right. And what about OUT?
OUT often suggests ideas like leaving or removal or maybe distributing or revealing information. So you have move out, leaving a home, hand out papers, distribution, removal, find out or figure out, revealing information, removing confusion. Understanding that core concept behind the particle can make learning, say, 10 up verbs feel much easier than learning 10 completely random words.
That's a great tip. Okay, strategy number 3. Practice with stories. You mentioned active creation beats passive consumption.
Every single time. Don't just read examples. Try writing short paragraphs, maybe little fictional scenarios, or even just describing your day, and consciously aim to weave in, say, 5 to 10 of the phrasal verbs you're currently focusing on.
Right, so you're forcing yourself to integrate them into a coherent, meaningful narrative.
Exactly. Like you might write, okay, this morning I had to wake up really early because I needed to work out a problem with a client proposal. Then later on my way home, I ran into an old colleague I hadn't seen for ages, so we decided to catch up properly soon and set up a coffee for next Tuesday.
Making it part of a story like that definitely makes it stickier in your memory. Okay, strategy 4. Use flashcards, but use them effectively. Not just word plus definition.
Right. Flashcards can be brilliant for spaced repetition learning apps like Anki or Quizlet are great for this, but they are only truly effective if they are robust. Each card must include a full example sentence showing the phrasal verb used naturally in context.
So you see how it's used.
Precisely. And ideally, maybe add a quick note about its separability, SEP, or INSEP, to help embed those crucial technical rules right alongside the meaning and usage.
Good point. Okay, strategy 5. Mimic native speakers. Shadowing. This one is more about the physical act of speaking, right?
Yes, it's about pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation. Find a short clip of natural dialogue, maybe from a TV show, a movie, or even a podcast interview where people are speaking relatively clearly. Then you pause the audio after a short phrase or sentence containing a phrasal verb, and you immediately repeat it out loud, trying to copy the speaker's intonation, their rhythm, even the emotional tone. Exactly.
So you're not just saying the words, you're copying the music of the language.
Exactly. This technique helps bypass that mental translation step. It helps you internalize the natural flow and cadence of spoken English, which is fundamental to sounding authentic.
Okay, that's a really solid set of strategies. Context, particles, stories, smart flashcards, and shadowing. Brilliant. Now, though, we have to confront the dark side. The common pitfalls. Knowing where the traps are is half the battle, right?
Absolutely. Forewarned is forearmed. The first major pitfall is one we've already touched on quite a bit. The confusion between literal and figurative meanings. You just have to rely on the surrounding context.
That run-over example was perfect. My boss asked me to quickly run over the presentation slides. That's a quick review, professional context.
Right. Versus, oh no, I think I just ran over a squirrel. That's a very literal, physical, and unfortunate action.
Yeah. One mistake in interpreting the context there leads to complete misunderstanding.
Totally. Okay, the second pitfall, and this is maybe the most technically challenging one for many learners, getting the separable versus inseparable distinction right. This dictates where the object of the phrasal verb can, or sometimes must, be placed.
Okay, let's try and summarize the rules as clearly as possible again. For separable phrasal verbs like turn on, put off, bring up the object, like the light or the meeting, can usually go either between the verb and the particle.
Turn the light on.
Or it can go after the whole phrasal verb.
Turn on the light.
But UT, and this is the rule people often forget or get wrong, if that object is a pronoun, it, him, her, them, us, it absolutely must go in the middle, between the verb and the particle.
Right. You have to say turn it on. You can never say turn on it. Same for put it off, bring it up, back it up. The pronoun always splits a separable verb.
Okay, that's the rule for separable ones.
Yeah.
Now, what about inseparable phrasal verbs like look after, run into, get along with?
For inseparable ones, it's actually simpler in a way. The object always has to come after the particle. You look after the children, you run into an old friend, you get along with your colleagues. You can never put the object in the middle.
So you'd never say, look the children after.
Never. Sounds completely wrong. And crucially, even if the object is a pronoun, it still follows the particle for inseparable verbs. You look after them, you run into her, you get along with him. There's no flexibility with inseparable verbs regarding object placement.
Okay, so knowing which common verbs fall into which category, separable or inseparable, is really key to avoiding grammatical errors.
It eliminates a huge source of common mistakes, yes. If you just know that look after, run into, put up with, get over, come across are generally inseparable, that helps a lot.
That clarity is essential. Okay, pitfall number 3, managing the formality level. We've touched on this too, but it bears repeating. Phrasal verbs exist across the entire spectrum, from super casual slang right up to perfectly acceptable professional language.
And you absolutely need to gauge your audience and the situation. Work out a problem or look into an issue are generally fine, even quite good in most business contexts.
Right.
But if you accidentally use a very informal phrasal verb in the wrong setting, like imagine substituting screw up, which is a very casual way to say you made a mistake.
Yeah, stronger than mess up.
Definitely. If you used screw up instead of make an error in a formal report or a high-stakes client meeting, well, you've potentially undermined your credibility right there.
Yeah. So a good rule of thumb might be, if you're communicating with someone important, like a new client or a senior manager, and you're not 100% sure about the formality level of a phrasal verb you want to use,
then play it safe. Default to the more formal, single-word Latinate verb. Use investigate instead of look into. Use postpone instead of put off, at least until you get a better sense of the accepted linguistic norms in that specific environment.
makes sense. Better safe than sorry in those situations. Okay, and finally, pitfall number 4. Be aware of subtle regional variations. These aren't usually huge deal breakers for comprehension, but they definitely affect how natural you sound in a particular place.
Right. These are often small differences in particle choice or even verb choice.
Right.
For example, Americans typically fill out a form, whereas Brits usually fill in a form.
Okay.
Americans might call someone up on the phone. Brits might be more likely to ring someone up. Americans might stop by or drop by for a quick visit. Brits might pop in.
So small differences, but noticeable.
Yeah. Listening for these subtle regional preferences just helps refine your understanding and helps you blend in a bit more smoothly depending on where you are or who you're speaking with.
Okay, that is incredibly useful context on the pitfalls.
Wow.
We have really covered the waterfront here today. The history, the why, the how, the where, the strategies, the traps. It's been a very deep dive indeed. So wrapping things up, what's the final actionable plan for someone listening right now who wants to move forward with more confidence?
Right, we've talked a lot. We've kind of built the spice rack of phrasal verbs. Now it's time to actually start cooking with them.
Love it. Okay, step 1.
Start small. Don't try to learn 100 at once. Pick just, say, 10 phrasal verbs. But choose ones that are immediately relevant to your daily life right now. Maybe focus on social ones if that's your priority, or work-related ones if that's where you need them most. The goal is immediate applicability, not just sheer volume.
Okay, start small and relevant. Step 2.
Be consistent. Use those chosen 10 phrasal verbs every single day if possible. Actively listen for them when you're consuming English content. Use the story writing method or the journal method we talked about to actively produce them consistently. Daily exposure and practice is key.
Consistency. Got it. Step 3.
Embrace mistakes. Seriously, the fear of getting the separability wrong or using one in slightly the wrong context often paralyzes learners and stops them from even trying. Don't let it. View every little slip-up not as a failure, but as a free, personalized grammar lesson telling you exactly what you need to work on.
Good mindset shift. Okay, and step 4.
Accelerate your practice through real interaction. If you can, find an English-speaking conversation group, maybe join a language exchange online, or get a conversation partner. You need that real-time, spontaneous practice. That slight pressure of having to use them on the fly is where effortless integration really starts to happen.
Okay, so the plan is start small and relevant, be consistent, embrace mistakes, and practice actively with others. That really does sound like a clear path to mastery.
It is.
So I guess the core takeaway from this whole deep dive is pretty clear then. Phrasal verbs, they are not some optional extra or just a hurdle to get over. They are an absolutely essential, dynamic, vibrant part of the English language. Mastering them will genuinely elevate your communication, making it sound more natural, more expressive, and ultimately more authentic. They really are the key to unlocking that next level of fluency.
Couldn't agree more. And This whole exploration today, digging into linguistic efficiency, the survival of these Germanic roots through phrasal verbs, it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other seemingly small, maybe nuanced bits of language, maybe things like conjunctions or prepositions or even discourse markers, hold similar immense foundational power. Power in shaping not just how we communicate ideas, but maybe even how we perceive the world and interact with each other through language.
That's a fascinating thought to end on. Keep that curiosity burning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.